Of course, there's a new one coming up, the Clean Water Act. I'm not going into that one. Anyway, Eastern equine encephalitis transmission cycle, and the recent evidence that we're coming up with in part of our research is that Cicero melanura is responsible not only for the enzootic, but epidemic and, enzootic, epizootic forces and epidemic transmission of Eastern equine encephalitis. That one mosquito controls it all. The distribution of cases, distribution of horses, etc., all pushes it to this one mosquito. Now, I mentioned the human case last year in Oswego County. The blue bars are mosquito pools that were submitted weekly by Oswego County. Actually, there are only sites that were monitoring the village of Central Square and the swamp itself, which the swamp extends from Central Square eastward over to Constantia, south of Route 49. It's actually in what is owned 3 Mile Bay Game Management Area is only 2,000 to 3,000 acres. The area there is about 10,000 acres, Central Square over. So these represent the weekly pools submitted each week to Albany for testing. Now this highest bar here with 35 pools, 50 times 35, about 50 mosquitoes in each pool, 1,500 mosquitoes. It did represent the largest collection of mosquitoes we have seen for that particular period of time in the 30 years that we've been monitoring these sites. So we knew there was something unusual going on. But all of those pools, the red area, the reds, are zeros. They were all negative. And this system that we use is extremely sensitive. Now, if there had been one positive, we would have found it. Come this week 26 is July 1st. And we did find an isolation of Eastern from pools submitted that week. What's unique about this is that there were over 400 isolations of Eastern equine encephalitis virus from the northeast states last year. Over 400, there were only 2 human cases, one here in Oswego and one in New Hampshire, 33 equines, there was alpacas, all sorts of good stuff. This isolation was the first isolation of any place in the northeast United States. That includes New Jersey northward. So it started here, not quite. We have a very sensitive surveillance system. Skipped a week, came in, got a second isolation. Week 29, which is towards the end of July, we had 3 pools positive out of, I think there were 20 that went in, no, only about 11 that week. And so based on 5 isolations and knowing the populations we're building, we made the decision with Oswego County, or encouraged Oswego County, recommended, suggested, whatever term you prefer, that they prepare for an aerial spraying. Took a little bit of time, longer than we wanted, and we ended up with 7 pools out of 30 positive, which means we had quite a bit of virus activity. Now, although it only takes 1 mosquito in a group of 50 to bring down a pool, it still suggests we had a lot of activity. And by the time everything came together, we went and sprayed week 31, which is August 2nd. And this is the traditional pattern that we've seen. The Cicero melanura population went down, almost down to 0, virus disappeared. But 1 week later, it bounced right back up. Second highest total. And the biology of this species is such that it does not turn over that quickly. And the fact that it's infected suggests that it's not just going out, fresh females coming out picking up blood. No, these are all females that were missed by the spraying. And unfortunately what happened is that, again, all 3 of our human cases can be traced back that the exposure probably took place around 15 of August. And so right when those things rebounded, the person in Oswego County was exposed, was hospitalized in late August, and died a week later. And we did end up going in spraying the second time, and Onondaga County sprayed Cicero Swamp. Probably more on a knee-jerk reaction than anything else. And I will take responsibility for that. So, in the face of New York's Department of Health with New York DEC, they have their role, I have my role. Basically, health will trump the environment. But they don't like it. And in order to spray without CEQA, without freshwater wetlands, it's an emergency declaration by the Commissioner of Health of New York State, at the request of the Commissioner of Health of Onondaga or Oswego County. But it has to be done for public health reasons, and even doing it, what appears to be absolute perfect timing, it still doesn't work as successfully as I hoped it would have. Questions?
I had a whole bunch of sheets here of questions to ask, but you wouldn't answer every damn one of them. The one that I question now is Rattlesnake Gulch. When it floods in the springtime, that water runs into Chittenango Creek. You got beaver dams there and everything else, but they run in there. So you do have sediment running off from the swamp to Chittenango Creek to Oneida Lake.
Well, yes, but again, it is not like 3 Mile Bay or Toad Harbor. There is a small section of the lake that actually comes in to Toad Harbor Swamp itself. So where the lake level would have an influence on the water coming in and going out of the swamp there. But other than that, no.
Amazing. I don't think that part of the swamp.
I have
It's out of the south. I get mosquitoes.
Do the devices that we can buy, that some run on propane, some electric, that they put in their backyards, do those actually work? I mean, do they kill mosquitoes or just draw them in from your neighbors?
Well, it's a little bit of both. It's like using those light traps, because what they do is they run off a propane tank and create CO2. So what you want to do is to move it away from you. And yes, if you could get 2 or 3 of your neighbors to put those out, yes, they will work. Actually, they were developed on the salt marshes of Florida, in which the theory is that if you could collect, the mosquitoes are attracted to CO2 when they first, the highest populations are seen when the mosquitoes are first on the wing, and the females are out there blood seeking. And the theory was if you put up those all over the place and attract them, it's removal control. It's not quite the right word. But you put up enough of those turned out to be like 1 an acre or something. But yes, if you had enough of those out there, they will attract, because they're putting out CO2. You just keep them away from you. Make them a barrier between you and the woods or the swamp or whatever. Yep.
Very noisy.
John, the person that contracted equine encephalitis and died, was this a person otherwise healthy, or was he or she immunocompromised?
Not that we know of. The only thing, and another reason that I have to go get out, Eastern equine is primarily a disease of the very young. The previous 2 cases was a 5-week-old child from Central Square in 1971, and a 7-year-old boy, even though it says Camillus, as far as we know, he was over in Manlius, almost to Chittenango Creek. And then this individual was a 70-year-old gentleman. So, and generally it's a disease of the elderly. Of course, I'm immune, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, that was one, I'm sorry, that's, brings up a question.